I'm a little speechless just for a second, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the piece first, and then we'll get into sort of larger questions around our leadership, although they're not obviously unrelated. One of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about is text. The use of text and why, where you got it, and what made you make this selection?
Well, the long soliloquy, the monologue that Bo does in the beginning and at the end. When I saw, and I must admit, I did not read any of their stories until I got here. I thought there were going to be stories, but actually they were very confessional. Somebody had a T.S. Eliot poem. They were very, there's a lot of angst, pain. There was, and I thought that this was not the way that I thought of the piece, is 1 minute increments. So I went through, at first I was going to ask them to do it, and I began to just pull out what I thought were the most piquant statements, like, talk to me, or my ass was too round, those sort of things. And we just sort of, by a kind of intuitive process of scanning all the text, those were the things like, hoocha, 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 shh, no! That was in one poem, or a poem about being bullied on a bus, and the teacher sort of saying, how are you, sweetheart, and all, and this person feels that they've been bullied and violated. So that's how I arranged it, and then it was given to them. My feeling about text is that, as you obviously can see, I, Janet, Tali, Antonio, and I appreciate abstraction. But abstraction is organized in the minds of a language-conscious public by the words that are dropped in. So the words, those words then began to color what you see, or something like thank you, thank you, thank you, or what can I say about the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. Well, it's loaded.
Yeah.
It's very loaded, and it's loaded in what way? So the Pledge of Allegiance and the way that they treat it, the Pledge of Allegiance with this, it means a lot of things. Depends on your point of view.
Right. And how is this, in terms of the way you work in your own company and the way you've been working over the last several years, is this a similar kind of approach in terms of how you create?
Well, I don't often have to put a piece together in a day and a half, with people I've never met before in my life. Music I've never heard before, literally, dancers, so on. Then I'm trying to demonstrate, there's a reason you invited me here. Yeah, I'm known for being about engagement in the world of ideas, engagement in social change and so on, but that's not the deal. The deal is, can you throw down in the moment? Can you really see a room full of people and then start saying, beautiful eyes, that voice. Could you do the alphabet for me? Okay, not the alphabet, then can you do the Pledge of Allegiance? Who, incidentally, most of them didn't know the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm just saying, that was kind of interesting. That was very interesting. So we did a little research on the Pledge of Allegiance. My generation takes responsibility. So those sort of things, and then dancers have been chosen. But then who was there that actually had qualities that, that those guys in the ballet class, when the teacher had them jeter the cross, they just wanted to gulp space, and they were tall and elegant, and they were like, oh, they're like ballet boys. Well, let's pull that out and push them even more in that persona and see how deep they go into it. Now, ask them to do the national anthem. Oh, the Spanish speaking. Okay, well, you two must obviously know. No, I'm from Colombia. He's from can we come to some, like, come up with a Spanish version of it. And they went off to the side and they worked on that. And some of the teachers went online and I thought, okay, well, that's beautiful. Now, can you do ballet combination with a wonderful ballet teacher? We made a combination which has a little bit of Billy Forsythe in it. One hand, all good, all part of the DNA of what's going on here in this poetry. An artist must also know when things are happening, and the universe is giving you things right now. Can you grab it? So, can they do the ballet combination? Can they do the national anthem of their culture? And can they then, in English, translate it for us? That was what was thrown at them 24 hours ago. All in way of saying to all the quick minds in the room, I'm invited here, this is how you might think about making art. This is how you might think of what politics is. There was a time when I think we would, maybe we'll get letters tonight, about the Pledge Allegiance to the flag in the way in which it was treated here, which is ambiguous. In a way, it's kind of scary, isn't it? When they're all against the back wall and they're doing that. So what does that mean? Is it political? Ooh, what's politics?
So that's right. Let's sort of follow that thread for a minute in terms of your work, because I think it might be, some work is obviously extremely political in the sense of saying something specific, some kind of quote-unquote message or whatever. But I'm wondering in your work, which isn't necessarily overtly political, and yet there's a sense of some commentary that's coming through. Is that in your head when you begin? Does it evolve in the process? How does that become part of what it is you're creating?
Well, let me see if I can cut through the bullshit. First thing, you want to win. You want to win.
Want to win.
I want them to feel good about what these young folks did under our leadership.
Right.
Yeah. And then I want them to win, but I want to win on my terms. I know it's discontinuous. I know there are places where what's happening over there and what's out here is they are fighting each other.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make you watch it. I'm going to make you have an opinion about it, your politically correct opinion, and then your art critic opinion, and then the other one that's scratching his head and wanting something.
Right.
You got to deal with all three of those voices in this space. Right. So, and I want the kids to understand what is subversive.
Talk about that a little bit more.
Well, I don't know if I can.
Okay.
What is subversive? Right? They knew that you auditioned and you chose 8 of them.
Right.
The others were going to, quote, be allowed to watch. What? Being allowed to watch. There's those who can, those who can't, and you're going to do this, Bill? Well, then, to hell with that.
Yeah.
Let's see you in front of them break the rule. And all of their authority figures who are there,
right.
You're going to potentially knock them out of whack because of scheduling, because of these choices that are being made. I'm sure there are hierarchies already being established in the classes and so on. Well, that's also another thing in artists. Okay, I am a well-known, older artist, white hair, and I have a bunch of awards. I can get away with things. But, as I said to some other artists today, I said, well, who is the badass in the room? Who is the, excuse my term, cover the children's ears, who is the bad motherfucker? It's even going to get into Jones's face and say, I don't think so. I'm going to do it this way.
Did that happen?
I think it's going to happen when I leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what we want. That's why we believe in the artists. The artists are not a luxury. The artists should be dangerous. They should be dangerous. And if you've been following what's going on around the world, artists they are often the first group that is lined up, beheaded or shot. Okay. Do it with your children, do it with your votes, and do it with your pocketbook.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me sort of pick up on that, because I know right before you came here...
Can we bring the lights up?
Yeah, that would be great.
So that we're not pontificating in the dark here. Let's come up.
And we're open for questions in a minute, but I know right before you came here, you were doing a TED Talk in Vancouver. You were mentioning to me about some of the other people that were involved, who are sort of high name, in our political, social sphere, extremely well known, which you are as well, but yet you still feel somewhat as an outsider in that group in terms of being an artist, I'm saying.
Well, TED stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design. Now, I don't know how that title is ancient, but I don't know if, when I say art making is participation in the world of ideas, if someone who is dealing with nuclear energy or statistics or poverty or climate change or the human genome or the list goes on, they're brilliant people, do they really think I'm in the same game?
Right. Yeah.
In terms of ideas. Many people think we're a bunch of wankers. Yeah. That we are indulgent and that we never grew up and we get away with murder, pretending to be being serious and actually don't. We're just providing high-class entertainment. Some of us believe, as I said before, that we have the potential to get deep inside of you. That girl, Helen, climbing the wall today.
Right, yeah.
Now, if I were going to work that, she should have done it 3 times as long. When we were doing Uncle Tom's Cabin in Spoleto, in Italy, it's a long story. There's a section, remember the section wherein my whole company is on these chairs, and I am doing I'm just a poor, wayfaring stranger, traveling through this world of woes. Then it begins to channel this black preacher of the imagination. So where am I tonight, ladies and gentlemen? This is a very, very posh Italian audience. Fur coats. We're in a 16th century chapel where there's Americans. Then I start saying, who is here tonight? Where's the Pope tonight? I am the Pope tonight, goddammit! I am the Pope! The next day, Interpol came to and my mother, Estella, was on tour with me. And I was fingerprinted for insulting a head of state. And I was stopped to say, as I was walking, did you know you've been denounced by the Vatican? Denounced by the Vatican, right? And so that my mother, Estella, all 200 pounds of her, her Sunday best, there to see her boy. She didn't know what I was doing, but she was there with me. And every night we came on stage, and I said, Mama, would you bring me prayer tonight? Because she's a star in our church. She's passed away. And she could pray any way she wanted to sing a song. And that night, I've told this story. Maybe you've heard it, please forgive me, but she's tottering out, and she's not in good voice, and something's bothering her. What's bothering her is that they've been messing with her boy, right? And she comes on stage, and she does her, she sings whatever she sings, Kumbaya. She sings anything she wants, and she prays. And as we were leaving, she began to get the Spirit. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. Going into the lanes, the Italians, what is going on? Backstage. So I said to Helen today, I said, now, have you seen somebody get the Spirit? I said, now climb that wall and say thank you. So I didn't get, because of our short rehearsal time, that deserved to really be pushed to the motherfucking wall, Now, what do you mean, thank you? Thank you! And what does it mean to get the Spirit? What does it mean to let that into you? And she Estelle could do it in a drop of a hat.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
So
I saw that.
that's what thank you was. That's what we were just suggesting, climbing the walls here. Right? And at the end, she sort of says, as an honor, and said, let's not be too ironic, but talk to my generation and tell us, thank us for what you want us to do.
Right.
Thank you for making equality possible.
Right.
Thank you for making it possible to learn. Thank you.
Thank you for not starting another war.
Thank you for not starting another war. Is that political? Is it political? And does it matter? Is it urgent?
Do you feel like that's your role? That's the reason you're here in this world?
Listen to this. Oh yes, I was born to do this. Well, what role did I take you in?
It's a fairly, it's an extraordinary career. You're obviously an individual who's explored a number of different avenues, and I'm always curious about what's driving you to do that, and what's sort of in the inside. Because I think for the perspective of leadership, that something as many of my students are out there, they know I'm all about. Why are you doing this? Why does this matter? What change is it that you intend to affect with your work? So I'm just curious where you feel like that's coming from.
Well, I answered in two parts. One is the discussion we had the other night after seeing this wonderful trailer that my former dancer and now a member of the Loyola Marymount University, Roz LeBlanc, she's making a film about D-Man in the Waters. It's one of our most successful works. Member since Octavia Major, made just after Zane had died, made when a number of people in the company were died, and Jenny Holzer, the word artist, would quote, "In a dream you saw a way to survive and you were filled with joy." It was an image of a whole generation of us swimming against the inevitable tide of early death and a horrible death. We all know what it's about. And it didn't end there, did it? Anyways, when I made that work, I was making that work for personal reasons and for my company, trying to make something beautiful, winning, but at the same time, something that was expressing the ineffable. What is that, the ineffable? And so it landed in the culture as if it was a volley in the culture war.
Right.
You know, oh yeah, he's making work about AIDS. You know, he's HIV positive, you know, so it's about his problem. He's hitting us over the head with it. So, hey, wait a minute, I'm trying to make my poetry. But the culture needed somebody to articulate what was going on, right? You know, so, how did Bob Marley say? My feet are my only guarantee, so I gotta push on through. Well, this work that I do, this life, this is my only guarantee. This is going to take me. So I did. It just so happened that I made it into the history books. It just so happens I was pillared and derided in public. It just so happened that I had my supporters and those who were against it. It just so happens that people could point at that work and say it had best values or it had the worst values at the time. What's the artist going to do? Right. So you asked me, was I born to do this? The other part of it was, at the time when Arnie died, and there was a lot of the culture wars, Maplethorpe, all of these things were happening. Remember that they wanted us to sign an affidavit that you were going to get
any money, you would not do anything offensive.
You couldn't promote certain anti-family values and so on and so forth. Well, in Europe, in particular, I was seen as an artiste engagé.
Meaning?
It's weird. There's this notion that there are at least two types of art. One type of art soars above the world. It is the art that's dealing with form, pure meaning, all those things. The other is engaged in the world, what we call probably social justice work.
Social justice.
Now, it cuts both ways, because if you ever read Hannah Arendt's Men in Dark Times, she takes the case of, is it Bertolt Brecht? Bertolt Brecht, that says that his work became weaker when he became artiste engagé, when he became a polemicist, and so on and so forth. Whatever. I made a formulation people would come to me and say, okay, Mr. Jones, you're an engaged artist. What should an artist do? And I said, what should an artist do? An artist does not have to do a goddamn thing. An artist should be the freest in the culture. An artist should literally be running naked and sometimes thumbing their nose at all received wisdom. Don't tell me. Now, what does an artist who is a man, a woman, a transgender, who has a location,
Right.
educational location, economic location, what does that person that the artist is need to do? Now let's separate it out. Nobody's saying an artist has to do anything. But the artist is a person, and what does that person need to do? And if you need to get out, I was talking to a group of young women today, because everyone wants to talk D-Man, oh, the AIDS crisis, and how you really, okay, wait a minute, right now, where is rape, campus violence, reproductive rights, inequality, income inequality? Okay, who's making work about it? Who's making work that makes people, oh, it was so touching. It made me want to like get up and shout, made me want to go, but you know, okay, well, I said, who are the young women making their D-Man around this issue of rape on campus? Where is it? That's where it came from. It came from us in that country.
Right, yeah, exactly.
We needed to do something.
And then the language of the artist then, as you're indicating, has a way of connecting with people on a certain level that politics, statistics, newspaper articles and all that just sort of inundated with that. It's like a piece of art can
Potentially, you're a professional. You see a lot of shit work. Right? And and some of the worst poetry is AIDS poetry. It's terrible. Don't write poetry about it.
You're hinting around about this, but I want to hit one more thing before we open it up, and that is, obviously you began as a dancer, a choreographer, you have your own company, now you're running an organization called New York Live Arts, which is not only home to your company, but also is essentially presenting, and a really important presenting organization in New York City and in
commissioning, advocacy.
How does that fit into your sense of yourself as an artist in the world? Like that's a lot of administrative work. Doing all that stuff.
I don't do it alone. My executive director is here, Ken Cullen is here tonight, right? There is David Archuleta is our development director. We have, they're professionals. That's what they do.
Right.
I can't do all these things that I do without my associate director, Janet Wong.
Right.
I mean, with Janet, everything gets done. And I have Tali and Antonio here helping me tonight as well. So this is not a one-man show.
Right.
It is not. And I know my limitations. What I run the risk of sometimes is the self-loathing with feeling that you are nothing more than a figurehead. Mm-hmm. There's this thing that I used to, and I admit it, I'm a bit crazy, it's true, and I have an immense ego. But there was a time when I used to say, oh, he's so brave. And people would say, he's so brave, he talked to me. I said, look, don't make me a charismatic decoy. Shoot that brightly colored one out there. The rest of us get to fly away. No, that's not what this is about.
Yeah.
This is like the black church.
Yeah.
I call out because I want you to call out. I call out to be visible because we stand up and be visible.
Right.
We shall overcome. We flies in the face of what I was taught about the world being a place where I'm born alone and I die alone. The existential dilemma of being alive. There is an I. The only thing I know is an I. True, but to say there is a we. Shall invites promise, invites the future. There's a directional error. Overcome implies that there is something to rise above. We shall overcome. That was injected into the DNA of my consciousness as a small child. That is, in a way, I say that's what my art is. I'm very self-involved. I'm very narcissistic, all those things, you know. But there is a sense of we. There is that Baptist preacher in there. I don't have the faith, but I have the infrastructure, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it also reminds me of as I've told you several times, in my work as an arts administrator over the years, my encounter with you when I was in Penn State University doing The Last Supper in Uncle Tom's Cabin, which had a lot of us really worried about how this was going to go down.
You were a leader. You were one of the leaders.
Yeah. But that was because you, in one of these meetings, said, you administrators always sit, you presenters always sit in the back of the auditorium and watch the show, and you have some commentary about what we're doing and how we're doing, and it's good or not good or whatever. I'm up there on stage making myself vulnerable every time. And in this case, I'm not going to let you be back in the back. You're going to be up there vulnerable along with me. And it taught me this sense of thinking about my role as an arts leader as one that is about being vulnerable, taking those risks, taking that step out, making sure that what you're doing really lines up with the integrity of what you believe, rather than separating yourself by sitting at the back and commentating.
And you know what? Thank you all. It was the time, wasn't it?
It was.
It was the time when Jesse Helms was on the floor of the legislature, waving the catalog of Robert Maplefort's sex pictures,
right,
and saying, this filth, we shouldn't be funding it. And that was the time when people had to come together. Well, it's a little more confused right now. It's way confused.
Right.
In our space, bless him, Tom Kriegsman, who's our director of programs, has this eye, and he's going out there looking for things. Well, movement-based work, but there have been, in the last couple of months, there have been at least 3 events wherein primarily white persons on stage were twerking. I mean, literally like, raunchy, like doing it, and they know it's transgressive.
Yeah.
We all know the Miley Cyrus thing, there was something about them, what the hell is this? They were pushing the boundary about political correctness, what people are and are not allowed to do. The other night, I melodramically said it at a board meeting that I feel like, I begin to see these artists that we have here are in fact really talking about the gap between our principles and our actual racial practice. And it is transgressive, and it is scary, But you know what? That's just like Dolty Jones saying, we want 62 naked people on stage of every shape and size. Now you go find them. Now you go find them, right? So I understand. What does it mean to have the back? Have the back of these artists. Like, I got you. Go do it. We're gonna take the flak with you.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean
transformative experience. Let's see if we have some questions now from the house.